Hi everyone, welcome to the epic after-show review of Game of Thrones Season 2, Episode 7, A Man Without Honor. I'm Curtis Hollister.
And I'm Sheldon Macgillivray. And boy, are we in trouble, Curtis. Well, we promise not to spoil the story for many of you out there. This certainly becomes a challenge when HBO diverges so nicely from the story as we, the well-read, know it.
Well-read indeed. From Harrenhal to the Frostfangs, the story is definitely heating up.
So let's love hammer out the juicy details, Curtis, for your maximum viewing pleasure.
So that obviously asks the question, where do we begin?
Where do we begin? Oh, my goodness.
Well, the one thing that I would say in kind of encapsulating this episode is it's almost like a sensitive love-in from the Lannister family. You've got Tywin, Cersei, and even the Kingslayer talking about these sensitive moments in their past.
They're all opening up.
So, let's jump into that a little bit later. But it seemed like it was like
push comes to shove.
It was like an intervention had happened within the House of Lannister. So. We do start kind of with Winterfell, and I mean, basically, this is just a not so important scene. They've lost Bran and Rickon and Hodor and Osha.
A man's dead.
A man's dead.
Yep.
They've escaped. There's shit being flung around by Theon to everybody, but he does assert himself by beating the hell out of that guy that was giving him a hard time when they were taken off from the docks,
which he badly needed to.
Yeah,
this is a guy without any reputation in the Iron Isles. His own father wants to see him gone, and even just the mere sailor on the ship.
And the Maester from Winterfell is continuing to try and institute some kind of rational reasoning with Theon, but to no avail for all intents and purposes.
Right. Well, he's trying to reach the Theon that grew up with him, that he's taught and that lived with Brandon Rickon.
And his voice is bouncing in the echo chamber, basically.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Cut to Bran, he's on the run. Not really an influential scene other than, hey, listen, we got to stay away from other people, otherwise we're kind of putting them in danger.
But here's a farm.
Can
we get some food?
And they're starving, obviously, so they're on the run. But I mean, what we've got is this kind of like slow start to the episode for all intents and purposes, because we already knew that Theon is going to go after them, and we already knew that they were on the run. So not really that much is happening.
Not that much.
And that slowness really kind of continued into the Frostfangs, but there was some depth to the storytelling from the point of view of Jon and Ygritte.
I think Ygritte really kind of came out with some strong points as to kind of I guess rattle Jon Snow's sort of faith in not only the Wall and the Night's Watch, but
and just as the books kind of indicate, though.
Yep.
Ygritte is a sexual being.
Oh, she was overtly sexual.
Yes,
she is a horny redhead.
Absolutely. which nobody appreciates. Wait, everybody appreciates it.
Yeah, you can comment on that last comment, by the way. Please, just feel free to.
Yeah, everybody appreciates that.
Yeah. And redheads are rare.
Redheads are, especially they're called basically.
Especially when they're called Ygritte.
The fire people, basically, or something like that in the books.
Ygritte starts with a Y, by the way.
The other thing that is interesting about that scene that I think is very poignant is that she gets into the debate of effectively, why are you here? You've made these decisions.
Why am I your prisoner?
Why am I your prisoner? You claim about being part Jon. You're like, I'm Lord Eddard Stark's son, and he has the blood of the first people in there. He's like, so why are we fighting?
He said we share an ancestry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see this blank stare comes from Jon where he just doesn't know what answer to give. And for me, that really speaks to Jon's continued identity crisis. We talk about Theon having an identity crisis, but the fact of the matter is, any bastard son or bastard child, I mean, he's got an identity crisis. I mean, he thought he'd solved this problem by being part of the Watch, but that doesn't really seem to kind of take hold.
I think actually it was a moment of clarity for Jon. I think when she said that they share a common ancestry, I think Jon Snow actually melted. I think Jon Snow melted. I think he for the first time.
Part of him did.
He really saw the futility in the Wall itself, in the Night's Watch role.
Part of him was still frozen from the night before, maybe. I'm not sure.
I don't think he was frozen. Not when she woke up. She mentioned nothing about. Well, there was something hard, but I don't think it was ice.
Yeah, exactly.
She was very enjoying it.
Yeah,
and he was alarmed.
The sword of Eddard Stark was called ice as well.
Yes, it was. Yeah, you're right. Nice connection. I like that.
So an interesting scene though when we jump to Harrenhal, which by the way, credit to the creative people and
that was a great scene.
That opening scene where they kind of show, they really visualize and bring to life the destruction. Like no matter what they say in the story, you figure, well, a castle's a castle, and this is a great castle. It can't be that bad. But this is truly a place that's in disrepair.
Yeah, and I mean the nice even the additional kind of hangings and things going on at the time, and the pile of bodies down below was just probably reminiscent of Harrenhal of old.
Yeah.
And the molten rock and everything else. It was an excellent opening scene for Harrenhal. Really touched on what it was.
Now, Tywin Lannister is really kind of connecting back to the Armory Lock being killed, and he's kind of he thinks it's kind of an attempt on his own life.
Yep.
He's talking to the Mountain, Gregor Clegane. And by the way, I mean, is it just me, or is it that the same Gregor that was in the first season? Because one, he looks a lot thinner than the Gregor from last year. He just does not look like
taller.
the same guy.
He's taller. He's
well,
huge.
the other guy was big too, but I mean, he just doesn't look like the same guy. That would be an interesting thing to check out fact-wise.
Yeah, comment on it if you know for sure.
So he sends Gregor out to basically find out some information, find out who did this, burn the villages, pillage towns, which the Mountain's only too happy to do. He's made to do that.
He loves it. It's always been his job.
But he's kind of a mindless killer. Like in the books, he really is an animal. He's a beast. Like he is like
no conscience.
He is
at
like
all.
a warhound, right?
No conscience at all. Where the Hound is himself is claimed. It's interesting that the Hound claims later on. We'll talk about it, but claims to be a killer when I think it's his brother really that represents that better.
Now, from the point of view of like Tywin here, now we all of a sudden go into Tywin continuing to connect and like almost have these like deep conversations with Arya. And he's basically talking about, have you eaten? Here, eat this. Eat my food. I don't like mutton. And then he kind of gets into talking about legacy and how important it was. And one of the things that you didn't really get out of the book was, I mean, almost you get hubris out of that scene for him and kind of, but you don't get that in the book so much. It's important to him, but he never really kind of talks about it. Like he says, it's important. But he says it in a strong way, and he was saying it in a much more sensitive way this time.
But he was also saying it to who we know as to be Arya Stark, who, I mean, anybody can suspect whether or not he actually believes she is. But, I mean, I think he's talking to the daughter of what he suspects to be the daughter of Eddard Stark. He doesn't say so, but, I mean, he's correcting her on somebody impersonating a commoner, telling her, you are a noble lady of somewhere. And you're referring to me as my lord when a commoner would say my lord. Yeah. And in that whole conversation, so I'm wondering if he's
But she also went into this. She really played too many cards in that scene. To be quite honest, like
I say, Arya busted from the last episode. I called that, by the way.
She really kind of like was talking about the Targaryen conquest under Aegon and his brothers and sisters and so forth. And I mean. There's no reason for her to have that conversation with him,
except that he deliberately started it.
Yeah, but
I think he got her off of her guard. I think he drew something out of her that confirmed his suspicions.
That's right.
I think that was what was really happening when he talks about legacy. I think he's suspecting he's talking to the daughter of Eddard Stark, and he's actually saying legacy is important. Your legacy is as vital as your father's. I don't think he's not saying this outright, but I really believe he knows who he's talking to.
He knows he's talking to someone, but the fact of the matter is he doesn't choose to do anything about it.
No,
because every lord's offspring they become hostages. I mean, they're all ransomed.
Exactly.
I mean, so why would he not kind of go, you know what? I'm gonna just be the guy that I normally am and deal with this, which is a little bit, if not a lot, out of character.
Well, unlike Joffrey, he knows that there's value in keeping her captive. Even if he knows who she is, keeping her alive is more valuable than her dead. Joffrey doesn't seem to get that.
But he's allowing her to continue to be around him, which is a little bit surprising.
Well, given the nature of his conversations.
Well, in a sense that, she could kill him.
Sure.
And she's said so much in some ways. Talk to kind of a mediocre scene of Sansa talking to the Hound. Yep. The Hound is, basically he's saying, you're going to have a really crappy future, and I'd be one of the only people that, act in your interest.
The foreshadowing? He said, I might be the only one who stands between you
and Joffrey
and your beloved Joffrey.
Yeah.
Meaning, what does that mean?
I
think he's actually insinuating something.
And there was a few looks there that you felt like there was almost an intimacy that he wouldn't admit but would hope for.
Little bird.
Yeah, there's an intimacy that he hopes for with Sansa, I think. Didn't go any further. Cut to another kind of irrelevant scene because Daxos basically says, hey, listen, I'm innocent. Like, it wasn't me. Why would I do this? I can do anything I want. I'm rich. Why would dragons be of importance to me? Not.
Well, this is after. This is the scene where Daenerys is
in court.
searching
Well,
talking to Zeros.
She's on the stairs, and he's kind of talking to her, and she's like, "I've been in your house, and this happened under your house, and we're not really friends." And I mean, she's outraged, but at the same time, he's just really saying his innocence. Like every guy that does something bad, says they're innocent. So big surprise. And that obviously comes full circle by the end of this episode. Johnny, back to their conversation about kind of freedom and so forth. She's just talking about how she's free to do whatever she wants, that they chose Mance Rayder as their king. I think it's just kind of continue on with that vector of thought. It's like there's this dialogue where she's free to have this conversation with him. She is her she is his prisoner, but I mean, at the same time...
But she's goading him.
Yeah, she is goading him, yeah.
She's goading him I think she just wants him to give an unnatural response.
Yeah.
Because having sworn the oath, he's... she even says
she wants him to admit that he's wrong.
Sure.
At some level.
Sure.
That cuts to the fact where, from the books, one of the key lines from her was, "You know nothing, Jon
You know
Snow."
nothing.
And that was something that I think...
That was the first time she invoked this line, too.
Yep,
in this.
That's right.
Yep.
So expect to hear that line probably again, because it is an important line in the sense that really she's another world for Jon.
Yep.
And she represents a life that...
A life without status.
Well, and she represents a life that he might want. Even though I think there's something about the life that he sees in her, even the energy and the spirit and so forth. Like, he's not the same Jon Snow that he normally is.
I think so too. I think he doesn't have to. With her, he sees a freedom where he doesn't have to be a Stark and he doesn't have to be a Snow. And like I said, the snow is melting. I think he's really coming to a point where he can envision himself in a life where there isn't that status, where people do have mutual respect for one another. That status is sort of thrown away here.
We cut back to Rob and the girl from Volantis. I want to call her Jane, but she's not Jane.
Let's call her the Spanish lady.
Yeah, the Spanish
fox.
Exactly.
Okay. The Spanish fox.
I thought they were at River Run at this point because the story has kind of changed around, but they weren't at River Run, obviously.
Let's say that if you do know, we think that they're at Robb Stark's war encampment.
Yeah,
somewhere around.
They're at an encampment. They're
near the crag, around Castle Rock, something like that. If we're wrong, let us know. Give us a comment.
Yeah, because that's a little bit unclear in some ways.
Yeah.
And basically, he's just having a conversation with her. You do see Roose Bolton again, and I mean, he's just continuing to kind of all of a sudden be more present within these episodes.
In that scene where she walks into his tent, she's asking for basically asking for some help. Roose Bolton's reluctant to leave.
Yeah,
and he does give that backward glance, and I think he's starting to question the relationship. He suspects something. He sees something.
And I mean, he's all about like. Not helping the other team.
Absolutely.
Sure. He's not about being the better man. He's about winning this race. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with having one of those guys in your team.
No, but is he on his team? Is he really on his team?
That is a good question.
We have the Dreadfort that's feared. We have Winterfell that's strong.
Yeah.
And
loved.
And loved. But then you have Robb Stark showing patience and tolerance for a wounded enemy. I mean, he was, and I think in the end of that small scene, he was very willing to assist her. And that overt gesture was another signal to all of us that there might be something more going on there.
We caught back up with Theon and his band of merry men, basically at that house of the peasant.
And they found Hodor's nuts. Do you guys see? They found Hodor's nuts,
which aren't like normal nuts.
They're not normal nuts. They're really large nuts.
They are not.
Well, they are. Walnuts are huge.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and tasty.
So all that really said was these guys are close.
Absolutely.
And he knew further, and for the life of me, I can't remember the Meister's name. But I mean, in the books, it's like every other page in the first two books.
That's true.
So long story short, he sends the maester back and continues to search on. Very small scene. We don't know anything other than he's going after these guys.
They believe they found them, or so they said.
Well, they knew they were close. If where Hodor's nuts go, so does Hodor.
Yeah, and so do Bran and Rickon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow Hodor's nuts, and you'll find the boys.
Yeah. When in doubt.
When in doubt.
Cut back to Karth. And I think I actually like Jorah Mormont a fair amount. I like him as a character. I know that he's got some ups and downs, but I mean, there's something about him that, I mean, he's a good guy.
I think his intentions are good. I think that his hand gets forced in some ways, right? So there are parts that
he allows himself to succumb to certain pressures.
I think so.
He did that with his historically. I mean, he was thrown out of Westeros. Effectively, fled Westeros. He's the son of the Lord Commander of the Knights. The Night's Watch.
Lord Commander Mormont.
Lord Commander Mormont
is Jorah's father.
The sword that he had, which is now the sword that Jon Snow has. So just so everyone kind of realizes the full circle there.
Mormont would have passed it on, obviously, to Jorah.
And he did leave it when he left. So he fled because he was selling slaves in order to pay for a wife that he was unhappy with, and she was unhappy with him.
Forced to marry. I think
he won a tournament, a jousting tournament.
Oh, right.
And he actually went 9 lances apparently, or 15 lances, something like that, with the Kingslayer. And he's one of the only guys to last with the Kingslayer and come out to a tie.
Right.
And
so there's no questioning his skill as well.
So yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a stud.
He's an old stud. He's an older stud.
I mean, he's not
kind of like Barristan Selmy.
Sir Barristan Selmy is like he's the guy that you do not want to find on the field with you.
He is the love hammer we referred to. He certainly is.
Selmy sounds like a love hammer.
He does sound like Barristan.
The other thing that was
like a name like
important there was that Daenerys was feeling very dejected. She just felt like, I'm completely lost.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Like
the loss of her servant.
And she was taking it out on Mormont a fair amount. But she would just basically find my dragons.
Dragons.
The minute he heard that, he was gone.
He was. He knew just where to go to.
He did know where to go. We'll talk about that in a second.
Back. Yep.
Jumping to the sexual tension.
The sexual beast.
The temptation.
The redhead.
So this is the last temptation of Jon Snow.
Yeah, absolutely. We're left with what? Is he dead? Is he captured? I mean, he was completely surrounded at the end of that scene. I know he was...
he was not going to get away from that scene.
He was not going to get away from that scene. I do know that is a small divergence again.
Yep.
But for the fun of it, we wouldn't bother going there. We like where this is going. We don't know where this is going. All we know is we're left with Jon Snow.
The fact of the matter is, though, he did spare Ygritte's life.
He did.
That means something.
That might play in his favor.
Yeah, that's probably going to play in his favor.
And she felt his icicle.
She felt his...
That might have some bearing, too.
His love hammer touch.
She may not have been just goading him, right?
They make a nice couple.
I think they would. They'd have nice children.
Yep.
Kind of like a red, black...
Good-looking kids.
Combination.
Sansa gets her period.
Sansa is a woman flowered.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
I mean...
At a girl. Way to go, Sansa.
As guys, we just never kind of connect with these kind of scenes necessarily.
No.
I mean...
they're uncomfortable.
Shay defends her honor, don't talk to anybody, but... It does get out immediately.
Well,
which cuts to the next kind of scene.
Was it the Hound standing beside the bed when the Shay came back from running after that servant?
There's so much happening.
I saw a flash of the Hound turn around, and Sansa was across the bed.
Yeah.
And the next thing we know, we're with Cersei talking about now what Sansa can do that she's flowered.
Yeah.
And what it means to be a queen.
And again, this is the softer side of the Lannisters, because all of a sudden she's kind of connecting all these stories and elements that she had as a child, where she was like, oh, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm my husband didn't have this good relationship, I'd have a baby and they're gone. And the fact of the matter is, the one thing I wrote down was, the more people you love, the weaker you are.
Yes.
And I think that is effectively a brand tagline for Cersei Lannister.
For all the Lannisters.
Well,
in some ways.
Yeah, I mean for Cersei especially.
What's interesting, though, is that
she takes it to a weird extreme.
They're celebrating Mother's Day today, and Cersei had some excellent motherly advice for Sansa.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
She said, love your children and no one else. Love your children and no one else.
It's somewhat binary.
What a message to the mothers out there watching.
It's somewhat binary.
Yeah. I liked it.
coming back to Jaime Lannister, he starts. Basically, Jaime Lannister is like, is he the philosopher Kingslayer?
I could be. I mean,
just said that.
The philosopher Kingslayer. Well, he surely is the Kingslayer. I don't know if he's a philosopher.
Well, I mean, he gets into this conversation where he starts to basically talk to, I think it's Alton Frey.
Alton Frey.
His mother, they said, is the big fat Lannister.
Yeah.
And I think she married Walder Frey. Again, apologies if we're wrong, and please correct us if we are. And the kind of the weight of being a Lannister, he talks about seeing Sir Selmy on the battlefield and how he was basically an artist that only painted in red. And he almost kind of seems to become kind of humble. And then he does kind of...
Humbled by the memory of watching Barristan fight.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Jaime is, at this point, isn't accomplished, what he calls himself a knight, but
yeah.
An accomplished knight who's considered probably renowned amongst Westerosi. So I think we're seeing a different side of him. You're right.
And then he was nice enough to bash his cousin's face in.
Yeah, to death.
Yeah,
he killed him to death with his chains.
Yeah,
with his
we don't know that he's dead.
Well, he was twitching nicely, I would assume.
Yeah,
and there's blood, lots of blood. But that's kind of the part of the show.
We'll just say that his breathing slowed.
Yes, for now.
Now we start getting, and we're trying to be as quick as we can as we go through this. But we start to get into kind of like talking about a little bit, or we touch on to the our secret lady covered in the kind of little mask, the funny mask, as she's doing a tattoo of a guy with his butt up.
That's
on the,
Miri Mazdur, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miri Mazdur.
So she's an important character because she becomes basically a real kind of future seer.
Yep.
And she highlights the fact that
this is Jorah now. Jorah Mormont now has come to visit her after leaving Daenerys.
Yeah.
Who's asked him to find the dragons.
Yeah.
So the first place he goes is Miri Mazdur.
Yeah. And she's like, "Are you going to be true to Daenerys?"
Yeah.
And what he realizes is that somebody else knows about the fact that he was feeding information to the spider back into Westeros when Daenerys was basically with the Khal Drogo and the
secret's out.
Yeah, and the Dothraki horde. But she says,
you get
the person that stole the dragons is with her now.
Yes, but you get the impression, even in the book, you get the impression that Miri Mazdur she has some important things to say. She's very prophetic. She returns to Daenerys quite often in her dreams and her thoughts. And the thing about it though is I think there's an element of sort of good in her too.
Yeah.
I think she means to.
Well, that's a good question though.
I wonder. I think she. Where's
her
allegiance lie?
What's her game?
Yeah.
What's her game?
Yeah.
I mean, who the heck is she?
But why does she demand of Jorah Mormont to be good to Daenerys if she wasn't looking out for Daenerys herself?
Or what she thinks is best for the future.
For the future. The future of the dragons.
So they get to Warlocks and Daxos. Basically, are we at the scene where? Yeah, we're at the scene basically where cuts to she's with them now. Cuts to this meeting of the 13, and they're kind of arguing about how hey, listen, we don't really give a crap if you don't have your dragons.
Well, she's accusing them now of having them,
and they're like, we'd be happy to have your dragons. The little chubby guy,
and we wouldn't give them back.
And he's like,
or we wouldn't tell you if we did.
I'd be totally happy to have your dragons.
Yeah.
Your future does not concern me. And then the warlock guy steps up and he starts saying, "Oh, she needs to be reunited," and it's a very weird conversation. And he highlights the King of Korth, and everyone kind of laughs, like that's a conversation that's happened sometime in the past.
The 13, by the way, are the ruling council.
That's right.
Of Korth. So, to put it in perspective, they would laugh if they were the ones in charge.
Yeah. Why on earth would we don't need?
Why would they relinquish that kind of power for a king?
Good Lord.
An apparent king.
So. And then Daxos stands up like a smart dude and says,
"Yep, you need me.
Yeah,
you need me to be the king."
And you feel like, yeah, exactly. He's standing up to be the king.
Yep.
Then the warlock or warlocks assassinate all of the 11 effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And Daenerys is like just befuddled. She's totally flummoxed by this.
Yeah.
And
She just wants her dragons back.
she's like, holy jumpins, what am I into here?
Yeah. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah, like quite literally.
You don't see that every day. You don't see that every day. But now we effectively have a king in Daxos.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true. And then Mormont comes in, stabs an empty cloth, and the warlock says you'll be reunited with your dragons
If you come to
the thing. And I think in the books, what was very interesting about when that happens. So that's going to happen. That's not a spoiler. She's going to go there. We won't talk about what happens there, but it's almost like a surreal like acid trip that she's on when she goes there.
Yeah, it's weird.
So that's going to be an interesting thing on how they actually represent her time in the
she has a lot of
place,
hallucinations.
the place of the Undying.
Yeah, but we don't even know.
We don't know what's going to happen.
We don't really know.
Because, I mean, again, credit to the creators of the HBO series and credit to HBO. They are diverging enough that this just didn't become foregone conclusions, which I think is really great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they anticipated probably that a lot of people have read the books.
Yeah.
And they're trying to give us some entertainment here. I mean, I like the fact the story is diverging in most of the
and this is a big part of the storyline.
This is a big part.
Daenerys and the dragons. I mean, this is something that is fundamental to how this all kind of goes down, and the people that are around her. And always look about. I mean, every one of these kings or future rulers have people around them that make the story happen. So start to look at the people that are around Daenerys. Kingslayer's recaught after he escapes. We didn't really say that he escaped before, but he did escape. Everyone knows that.
Well, the son of Lord Karstark came in to check on the Alton Frey, and sure enough, Jaime, wrapped his chains around his neck and choked him to death.
And the Karstarks are a big family as well.
It was very graceful.
North. Yeah. They're effectively share some lineage with the Starks. It's represented in some ways, but not exactly clear. But there's some.
I know. I think they talk about it somewhere where the Karstarks diverged from the Starks.
Yeah.
And became the Karstarks. So they are of the same lineage.
And they are an important player within the North, definitely.
Yep. They're important. They're an important ally to the Starks.
Yeah.
And not like a kind of a Roose Bolton.
And these guys
ally.
want. So the point is, these guys are important, and they want to kill him. They want to kill Jaime.
Yep. And who stands in his way? None other than
Cat.
Cat Stark.
Cat Tully. Cat Stark now, obviously.
What a commanding performance that was, though, as she stood above him. I mean, she was enraged. I really felt her rage. I really did. And not to mention coming from someone who is Michelle Fairley, the actress, who originally was not cast as Cat Stark. Not at all. And this is a good Mother's Day story. In fact, a woman by the name of Jennifer L. was cast as Cat Stark, Catelyn Stark, and actually was pregnant and gave birth to a young daughter and decided she would forego the series and be at home with her new baby, and that's where she remains while Michelle Fairley reaps in large amounts of cash and praise.
Well, a good story for Mother's Day.
And
good story for Mother's Day.
It's an excellent story for Mother's Day.
Cersei and Tyrion now have this talk about kind of like what's happening. Stannis has 200 ships. He's coming, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll rain fire down on these guys. Don't worry about it."
Well, I think that was a front.
Yeah.
I mean, she clearly was worried. I think that the pressure is really on at King's Landing right now. They're feeling the weight of Stannis' armada sailing down towards them. She talks.
Stannis is a dude that wins battles.
Well, you don't mess with Stannis.
He's
cold.
He's a cold dude.
Yeah, emotionless. And I think that what I noticed here is we had Cersei in tears.
Yeah.
Really worried for
not normal.
No, not normal at all.
Especially not in front of Tyrion.
But we also had Tyrion walk towards Cersei.
But I always see Tyrion as someone that's a little more sensitive.
Sure.
And willing to be more sensitive if need be. Like, I mean, he has been a jerk or just kind of a whoremonger in the past, but I don't see him as a cruel person.
No, I definitely see that these two hate each other less at the moment, and I think it's when everyone's against you. I think they're starting to
it was
mesh together a little bit.
Lannister love him.
Yeah, well, I think that makes sense. Given that they're about to be destroyed.
Yeah, and the Lannisters love other Lannisters, right?
Of course. Definitely. And so here's the question. Will Tyrion be the next Jaime? That is a good question.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a good thing to comment on anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's worth. I mean HBO should go there.
That's worth a large discussion on our blog.
So we kind of finish with Jamie continuing to survive. Does Caitlin not say "Give me your sword" or something like that?
Well, this is after Jamie just touches every single nerve I think Caitlin Stark could have. He talks about Ned's infidelity. He talks about Jon Snow the bastard. Talks about he just mocks her. Mocks her completely. And the last thing we see is Caitlin beginning to wield the sword towards Jaime Lannister.
I think this could be an interesting diversion from the books without spoiling anything that could have a couple different aspects to it. So, I mean, it could be a fundamental change from the books, or this could be the kind of bifurcation point where we're expecting something to happen between Caitlin and the Kingslayer.
No, at this point though, we
just don't know.
This was in the book.
Yeah.
This when she took the sword, asked Brienne for her sword. That was in the book.
But he was in a cell.
But he was in a cell in Riverrun
at that point.
But I think they're in the stockade, and it's the same scenario. I think Brienne was there. The sword was passed.
We'll see what happens.
And we don't know what's going on.
We'll see what happens.
We don't know what's going on.
Closing scene. Again, we are back to our gentle friend.
Theon Greyjoy. The one we all sort of hate to love and love to hate.
So, can you imagine that the entire Stark lineage is gone?
I can't imagine. That was a shocking scene.
Like, all of a sudden...
And the people that raised him were witness to
what
that.
happens if Jon Snow...
With the exception of his
What
parents.
happens if Jon Snow... Arya dies. Here's a scenario. Arya dies. Sansa dies. Robb dies.
Do you think that's going to happen? No way.
I mean... But all of their lives are at risk.
Yeah, the Starks are getting the meat full.
And Jon Snow is the only one left.
A mouthful of meat right now. They are, aren't they?
Like, Jon Snow's the only one left.
The only one left, and he's now lost in the Frostfangs.
Yeah.
But teetering on becoming a wildling or not.
According to the law in Westeros, he can be made a Stark because he's a bastard.
That's right. That's
something to think about as well.
If the lineage is dead.
No, I mean any king can install a bastard.
That's right. Oh, that's interesting.
Jon Snow, we don't want to mislead anybody to what can happen, but I think that's an interesting possibility.
Lord of Winterfell.
And there are lots of books still to read and so forth, so you'll see what Jon Snow's future looks like. Anything else you want to
add? No. I think we covered it. I don't want to give anything away, and I don't want to. We had to be careful with this one, guys. I mean. Like I said, storylines diverged a lot. It was kind of hard for us to kind of piece together.
This was a real episode building one. Like last week's episode was action filled.
Yeah.
This one was really storyline
plot filled. Yeah, for sure. And we're kind of left in as much mystery as you are.
And big shout out to everybody that is contributing and creating these kind of post review videos. I mean, I think every opinion matters. And to all those people that are like posting images and thumbnails for videos, and all they're doing is advertising some site with a just go to my website.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Or they want to sell you something.
It's so uncool. It's just not a cool thing. Don't dilute the contributions that everybody's making to try to do this.
You guys will find legitimate reviews on YouTube /Social Pixels and on our blog.
Yeah, Social Pixels, and the key is to go to gameofthronestv.tumblr.com, and we're going to force everything there.
Yeah, and we'll be checking it. We'll be able to respond to your comments. I know Scott T248, we have Korzendorfer, Xgenix, have all been contributing to comments.
And nice,
we appreciate that.
And positive comments, actually.
Very positive, yeah. And
constructive.
And corrections. I mean, if we do make a mistake, I mean, we're talking about 5,000 pages. And now we're on our second season of episodes. This is a lot of information.
Yeah.
So we'll do our best to keep it straight for you guys. And you do your best to give us some comments and correct us.
Until then, I'm Curtis Hollister.
I'm Sheldon Macgillivray.
Thanks so much for watching Epic After Show Review for Game of Thrones.